Going live, going live, going live. Hey, we're live. And welcome to the Hot Tag Podcast. I don't know what episode because it's been about a month since we've done a show. So I'm Chris.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tom.
And we just haven't. We've kind of been neglecting the podcast because the build to WrestleMania was a little. I don't want to say boring, but it was kind of a little boring.
I don't know that I was necessarily overly excited for anything. It was, I'm interested to see what Shane McMahon's going to do in Shane McMahon-Undertaker match. And then the rest of it was just, okay. You know, it was the things you kind of come to expect. There was nothing that I was like, oh, I'm really psyched to see this. There were matches I was expecting them to be good, and they were.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a solid pay-per-view.
I mean,
probably one of the most solid pay-per-views we've had in a while.
Since WrestleMania 30.
You know, I'll say the whole WrestleMania weekend now that it's kind of become with NXT TakeOver, then the Hall of Fame, and then the actual WrestleMania, it was a fun weekend for me watching stuff and kind of checking in. And I do like having the network that I can kind of watch something, be like, all right, I'm going to bed now, and pick it back up again in the morning. I'll start, before we even get into WrestleMania, I'll just start with TakeOver. And the Sami Zayn
Nakamura
match. I was gonna slaughter his name. I'm glad somebody got it right.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
I was practicing like all weekend. I'm like, I want to talk about this. I'm like, it's Shinsuke Nakamura.
You're sitting in the mirror. Shinsuke.
Nakamura.
You know who I'm talking about.
And then when a ball gets tossed to me, I go, what? The Japanese guy. That match was so good, I cried a little at the end.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of those matches that I would kind of... it's almost like if you were kind of fading away from being a fan of wrestling and you watched, you'd be like, all right, I'm back.
It would bring you right back. Yeah, it would have brought you right back.
It reminded me of... like Malenko Guerrero in ECW.
ECW, yeah.
And it was just and not only was it good performing, but it told the story well.
Right. Well, and I knew I've seen Nakamura videos from when he was in New Japan and stuff like that, and I know he called himself the King of Strong Style, and that is not exactly the way WWE is. And, when Hideo Itami came in and they made him slow his kicks down so he wasn't, doing the strong style, I was like, well, are they going to take the King of Strong and they're going to tell him to, like, back off? Because that just seems a bit weird. And then when...
I almost feel like that's why they put him in NXT. So you let him cave in some people's heads...
Right.
Here in NXT, and the guy's trying to make their bones, and you let him kind of feel out for what's going to work and how he's going to progress into a main roster performer if that happens.
Right.
Because I think his personality goes a long way, and I was thinking about it in terms of Japanese wrestlers who have come over, and especially I was kind of putting it in Japanese stars. Like I wasn't necessarily going to compare like Funaki to.
Let's hope not.
And I think I always felt Taka Michinoku was like a failure to launch when he came over. I had high hopes for him. I was impressed with a lot of his stuff. I think they just kind of, when they initially sold him as a face, and then they turned him heel, and then it got into the comedy stuff, it was, he was a guy that could really work and do things. They just didn't quite find the niche for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think he was also there maybe 2 years too early because they didn't bring the light heavyweight division or the cruiserweight division in until they bought WCW. And
No, they built
had
their
a light
cruiserweight around Taka Michinoku coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They had a tournament where it was Taka Michinoku, Brian Christopher,
Scott Taylor.
Scott Taylor,
Wayne Gill.
plus I don't know if Dwayne Gill, but you might have had like S.A. Rios.
I think S.A. Rios is there. That's the second S.A. Rios reference in less than a week.
And it might have been S.A. Rios when he was still Pape Chulo. Or what, he was something like that. Pimp Daddy was when Lee was his manager back then.
There it is. Boom, twice. That's like a Mr. Horowitz.
You got that one. You got that one in early. Got that one in early.
I did. I had to.
Taka Michinoku was like I think he was the first, whatever they called it, cruiserweight or
It was
lightweight,
light heavyweight.
light heavyweight champ. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It wasn't
Which is kind of redundant, but
Yeah. Well, whatever you want to call it.
or an oxymoron.
But that was with WWE. I don't know if they ever had like Muda was always in NWA, WCW. When Liger would come over, he was WCW. Any of the big, I'm trying to remember some of those other guys that came over with the NWO.
right.
But there were some big Japanese names that came over that never necessarily caught on. I think they're with what's his name that's hurt right now for NXT.
Tommy.
And then this guy, I think it shows promise because they're definitely, I think they have evolved well into a international promotion with international stars where it's not so much, here's your Russian guys, but they're just two big Polacks from Chicago. You have guys, if you look at it, you're like, there's a few guys from Ireland. There's a handful of guys from England now. We have a couple guys from South America, a couple guys from Africa, a couple guys. It's rounded out, and Japan has been, that's the other hotbed of wrestling. It always has been, in my opinion. Getting Japanese tapes was always a big thing for me.
Yeah, it was like the United States, Mexico, and Japan.
Yeah.
Because you had your Lucha Libre, you had your Japanese where they take it so much different. It's a lifestyle there.
Yeah.
I mean, even more so, like here we enjoy it as entertaining, and us nerdy fans, we love it. But like there, it's like when Muda was Muda, that was it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Like he was in the makeup, even out and about. It was full on kayfabe.
The Japanese take their wrestling very seriously. Like when Antonio Inoki fought the Bad News Bears.
Oh God. But I think.
We kind of got off. I kind of started harping on this Japanese thing, kind of hoping that we see, WWE, some of the Japanese guys start to work. You remember every once in a while, remember that dude they brought up? I want to say it was 10 years ago, and they kind of gave him a samurai gimmick. He was a bigger guy, long hair.
Oh, Hakushi.
No, not Hakushi.
What the hell was his name?
This is more recent than
something
Hakushi.
with a K. I want to say Kenta, but I know it's not Kenta because that's the Tommy.
But
I know the guy you're talking about, and then he ended up becoming like a comedy act too.
I think so. Yeah, I almost want to say they put the U.S. Championship on him for half a second.
Was it Tajiri?
No.
It was this guy. He was physically big.
Okay.
He wasn't like Tajiri came up through ECW. He was one of those Japanese guys that worked in Japan or worked in Mexico. So he and Hakushi was one of those. I remember he came over in the '90s. He had that feud with Bret Hart, and then he showed up in ECW with Hayabasha, and they had that phenomenal tag team match with.
Was it Kenzo Suzuki?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because it was either him or Yoshitatsu, and I was like,
it wasn't Yoshitatsu. Yoshitatsu was the guy that AJ broke his neck.
Well, one.
One of the guys AJ broke his neck.
But
and that was the other thing I was screaming on Sunday.
That's right, you did. That's right, because they teamed him with Rene Dupree for a while.
Yeah,
I was gonna say he was with another foreigner. He was,
I knew he was one of the French guys. I was gonna say the other one, Sylvain Grenier, whatever the hell his name was.
I looked at a picture of him, and they have him in like this. I don't even know what it is, but yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
And that guy, it was just he kind of came into big fanfare, and then nothing happened.
Yeah,
right. Fizzled quickly. So, but my opinion is, I looked forward to Takeover Dallas, basically to see Nakamura, and I wanted to see Balor Samoa Joe too. Now, before we get into that, I just want to say that tag team title match between Jason Jordan, Chad Gable, and the Revival was fantastic. It was perfect. It was one of those tag matches that you could have seen in 1992 on Primetime Wrestling before Monday Night Raw started, where, maybe the guys aren't like the most known, but the crowd was behind Gable and Jordan, and it was just fantastic. Yeah. And I really feel like it won't be long before those two are up on the main roster too.
Yeah, that's when you got two kind of Olympic quality guys like Gable and Jordan, and they remind me of like an early Steiner Brothers type of thing. Partly, with the amateur background and moving well. There's some Hart Foundation. There's a little bit of this is a classic tag team, and then the other guy's the Revival. I mean, it's like if you just cloned the Brainbusters.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They are.
I thought originally when I saw them win the titles down there, I was like, these guys could never get over on the main roster. And I was like, no, hold on a second here. I think they could. The problem is Vinnie Mac is going to do to them what they did to the Ascension, which still pisses me off to today because they were so great in NXT, and they put face paint and shoulder pads on them, tried to recreate Legion of Doom, and they got mocked off of TV. Just pissed me off.
It wasn't even that they were trying to, they were just trying to rip off the Legion of Doom. It was like that's who they were basically like calling out like every week. Right. They were like, we're better than LOD, and it was like, you can't even, hold. LOD's shoulder pads for crying out loud.
Exactly. You couldn't hold Rocco, and that's saying something.
That's saying a lot.
A fucking low point in the Legion of Doom.
It was. Absolutely.
All right, here you go. Ascension or Legion of Doom members Heidenreich and Droz, yes.
And Droz. Ooh.
I still take the Ascension. Wait. Is it Droz now or Droz?
I didn't hate them putting Droz with him with LOD back in the day. I didn't hate it.
It kind of worked.
It worked, and that's when Hawk was really having his issues.
Right.
But Heidenreich.
I think that was during the time where I wasn't really watching wrestling as much.
The Heidenreich or the
Heidenreich. No, I remember Droz. I remember Droz and Animal teaming up, and then every once in a while Hawk would be with them, so they'd be like it was like when Demolition added Crush.
Yeah, and it was like the only thing that really was odd about that was it was like at one point like Hawk was the odd man out.
Right.
You know, because of his issues. But the Heidenreich thing was just awful.
Yeah,
And then he started
Heidenreich was
spouting
one of those
nonsense.
things. He was one of those classic, big for nothing, WWE guys.
Yeah, it
Just
was a
bro. I mean, you know, and everybody kind of says, but WCW did that with plenty of guys. They had plenty of guys that were just big, and it's like, oh, this guy's hot garbage. You know,
Right.
and it almost seems like the big, muscled up guys are the ones that are the worst. Like, if you give you know, the big, it almost seems like the big, chubbier guys tend to be more athletic, or at
Yeah.
least more flexible than those muscled up guys. Because if you think about it, Vader and Bigelow and Bossman, and those are the big guys that were kind of successful. One Man Gang, Kamala.
Yeah, well, and I think what it is I think every single one of those guys played football at some point in time in their life. So there was agility there before they were wrestlers, as opposed to Vince going to a gym and going, this guy's got muscles upon muscles upon muscles, let's teach him how to wrestle, and all they have is the look. They never did anything other than lift or, you know what I mean? And you don't have to be agile to compete in lifting competitions. You just have to look good and look the part, and that's that.
I mean, in that style of guy, probably like Sid was the most successful and the most talented, and that's not saying a lot because
That's not saying a lot, except when you're doing except when he was doing promos.
Well,
yeah.
and moves off the top rope.
Oh, don't please.
That wasn't even the top rope. That was the second rope.
Oh, that's right. That on the turnbuckle. I'm sorry. No! It was like, all right, Sid.
We said we were never going to speak about that.
And then it was like,
You know what? You know what that makes me think of?
Joe Theismann?
A fucking cut of pizza.
Oh, fuck you! No! We said we weren't going to talk about that shit. God damn it! All right, we're done. Back to
TakeOver. Now that we've brought back up cut of pizza and Sid's illustrious
broken leg. Okay. And
all right, what's your guys' opinion, real quick? NXT, Elias Sampson.
I don't get him.
You know, the character is interesting, but the guy's look is like wrong for that character.
Right.
If Dean Ambrose had that character, I would be like, all right, that kind of works. But I'm like, how is this guy a drifter and he's that jacked?
Well,
I actually haven't even seen the dude, so I don't.
He's an impressive-looking guy. He wrestles well, but he has this like creepy guy gimmick. But it's this like drifter thing where he comes out with a guitar and he's supposed to be kind of like this secretive.
I feel like
because drifter. When I think drifter, I think guitar.
Well, and I think what they were going for is kind of a desperado thing.
Yeah.
It kind of has that Antonio Banderas feel to him.
Okay.
Like a whitewashed Antonio Banderas. Where like he has the black hair that's slicked back. He comes out with that guitar in the case, and it's like, okay, I see what you're going for, but it's just, I don't know. He is a good wrestler, but I just feel like that's something that will definitely not get over on the main.
He plays the guitar and he sings too. Right? He was singing in some of the promos early on.
Right, that's what he does. He was playing the song on the guitar and just singing, and I was like, okay, so he's like an acoustic version of the Honky Tonk Man. I don't.
It's because it's not goofy like the Honky Tonk Man.
No, it's not over the top.
It's a musical raven, I guess, is it's kind of what they're going for with him.
Waylon Mercy?
Not enough. Not psychotic. He's
okay.
Just, Negan. Think like
okay.
The way he talks, he's very like laid back and sociopath, where he's unsettlingly scary because he pretends to be your best friend, but he's like talking about how he's gonna destroy you, and it's just like, okay, because I always thought that Waylon Mercy, he had that same thing, but that was obviously the takeoff from the De Niro
Cape
version,
Fear.
right?
Yeah.
Cape Fear, but I don't see him getting over anywhere other than the small NXT stuff, and even then, I already see him losing a lot. So, are they already, since what's his name, that Crow guy, whatever his name was, left? The guy that was
Yeah, he didn't last. He
Oh, the
didn't-
guy that went back to CCW?
Yeah, he quit. He asked for his release. And then they got rid of Bull Dempsey, and like they got rid of a lot of these guys, and it's like, okay, so now guys that they were originally going to make into guys are now becoming those jobber week-to-week guys.
Well, that Crow guy, when they set him up, I was like, this guy just looks like a job. He just...
Yeah, he had that feel. Like
Right.
the first time I saw him, it was they were hyping this stuff and all this. There was all the little crap that would go on through the episode, and it was like, who's doing this?
Yeah,
Right.
he was the hacker gimmick.
The
that they
hacker
gave
guy.
him. Yeah.
And then he came out, and I'm like, that's the guy?
Right. Right, and then they just kind of like dropped it.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, no, he's just this weird dude that does a headbutt. Like that guy we don't talk about anymore.
Yeah, he didn't really do anything for me, so I wasn't, like, I heard he asked for his release, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And speaking of guys that just don't do it for me, Austin Aries, Baron Corbin. If you're gonna premiere Austin Aries, who
Right.
they bill at 5'9",
I mean, he is not 5'9".
no, he's not.
and then you put him in there with Baron Corbin, it made Baron Corbin look good. It made Baron Corbin look big, but it really looked like he was beating up a midget.
It looked like he was facing Crash Holly. Like when Crash had the dark hair for a short time.
And if like Crash had the flu for a little bit.
That's right. Because Crash was jacked.
Crash had the big shoulders at least.
Like he had that.
Because Aries has got.
And he had that
he's got
swollen
talent.
cocaine face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Aries can wrestle. I'm not saying
Aries
he
can wrestle,
can't
but he's tiny.
But he's you gotta put. I think for him to work, he has to be against the right sized guys. Like I don't know. I know there's been talk about a cruiserweight show,
They are doing a cruiserweight show.
Oh,
They announced it.
and I think Austin Aries would be perfect for a cruiser. If you need a big name for your cruiserweight show, and you can't get Rey Mysterio, get Austin Aries.
Yeah.
Well, and they're sending invites out to like New Japan and everywhere. This is going to be a come one, come all. If you've been invited, you're important. So it's not necessarily. I guess they're working with a couple of different indie groups, and that they're trying to pull in some of their lightweights to do the cruiser thing.
I think they're working with Lucha Underground too.
Well, they're working with Lucha, but I mean one of the other indies in not just Ring of Honor, but like one of the other indie
Yeah.
whatchamacallits. Which
Impact.
oh, go ahead.
That's Impact.
Oh, I thought you said something and I cut you off. I'm sorry.
You said the other indie.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't really remember. I lost my train of thought. But moving on to a match that was very hyped up, and I liked it, but an unfortunate incident kind of ruined the chemistry. The Joe versus Balor match, which those two have perfect ring chemistry, where you wouldn't think a big guy like that and a small guy like that would be able to work together the way they do, but they, like you said, Joe's one of those big guys that's agile as hell, and he can pretty much move around the ring like he's 100 pounds less than he is. But there was a legitimate headbutt that happened and busted Samoa Joe open, like right here above his eye. And it was one of those that you see at a boxing match, and they call the match because the amount of blood that's coming out. and they kept stopping, like the ref kept stopping and wiping him off, and the fans started chanting like PG sucks, and it just kind of like it ruined the chemistry of.
When the fans were chanting "Let them fight," and then they were chanting "Let Joe bleed,"
right, and then they were
chanting "Fuck PG."
Oh, that's what it was. Fuck PG. But it was just they're not going to let it just happen like that. I mean, obviously they have to look out.
But at the same time, they can't let it disrupt the flow of the match like that.
And it did. It
really did, because that's when you pull the crowd out and you just lose something.
Right. Now, I was wondering,
but I almost feel like it worked in a backhanded way to set up that you go one more time with these guys, because now you can have Joe go, I had the referee stopping me every 2 minutes.
Right.
You would have been done if you didn't get a break because you headbutted me and you're trying to end the match because you're scared to fight me, and you tried to end it on a cheap shot like that. It's a great way to get one more match out of it, and I mean they're not gonna go. It's not gonna be a first blood match. It's not gonna
Right.
But they'll do something. They'll bring it to that next level. It'll be a no holds barred match.
I think it'll end up being a ladder match. I think that's what could happen. You get that ladder match. That way, it's like, well, there's rules, but not really. So if you
I think they'll go something like that. It'll be no holds barred. There'll be no referee to step in and stop him.
Right.
Is what's going to happen. I think, and that it helps move the story.
Right. And I also my brother had watched it Friday night, and I didn't get to watch it till Saturday after the 10K at Hershey. And my brother said, I'm not going to give anything away because you're going to love the ending of that match. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And when I saw him put him in the coquina clutch, and I was like, oh, this is it, man. They're going to give Joe the title. And he did that drop kick off the turnbuckle, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, they're throwing an honor shot at Roddy Piper or Bret Hart from WrestleMania 8 when Piper had him in the sleeper hold, and he did that kick off the turnbuckle and landed on top of him and pinned him. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the exact same thing. And it was perfect. I loved it. And then a bunch of people in the IWC were like, what happened after that too? And I'm like, yes, but that was a big moment. That was WrestleMania 8 to me is like one of my favorites just because almost every match was a pass the torch match. It was the old generation saying, here you go, run with it. You had Jake versus The Undertaker, you had Piper versus Hart, even though Hart was in his 30s at that point in time, but like you were supposed to have Hogan versus Sid, that cluster fuck. Macho versus Flair wasn't, but almost everything else was the young guys coming out, and it just like that ending was like perfect. I liked it, and like I said, it gives you that blow off rubber match of, well, now Balor's won 2, can he win 3? Keep it. My personal thought is we don't see him on the main roster until SummerSlam or after.
Yeah, I don't think they're since if they're bringing up this many guys to the main roster like they've done, I don't see them moving him up at this point. Leave him there. Let him cook a little bit longer. Because if you got Sami Zayn up there now, if you got Baron Corbin's up there now, and then I don't know what's going on with Apollo Crews.
Yeah, I think I think Apollo's kind of might be bouncing back and forth. We had.
Well, that's what they did with a lot of those guys when they bring them up. They let them bounce back and forth for a little bit, let them work both shows, which makes I think it makes sense because you don't. You keep that popularity in NXT, and then you let it build. You cross promote kind of.
Yeah.
Now, with the women's match, which I think was the best women's match of the weekend. The other women's match I wasn't overly impressed with, the Charlotte. But Asuka Bayley. I enjoyed the match. But with watching the match, you got Bayley, who's she's adorkable. You know, she's just got that like, and then I'm having a weird thing with Asuka that I'm finding her oddly hot.
Oh, thank you. Jesus.
It's not like
I'm just going.
It's an oddly hot. It's Flo from Progressive. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Hey, hey.
I can totally see that. Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm in.
It's not like you're grabbing your buddies and you're like, don't do it. You're like,
right.
yeah.
I'm just not gonna say anything about this, and that's gonna stay right here. As soon as you start talking, I'm like, oh shit, he's in my head. Oh, I'm like, oh no, it was everything.
Get out of my head, damn it.
Get out of my head. But yeah, no, I thought it was a decent match. I liked that everyone complained about it. Again, the IW.
People complain.
I know.
People started. This goes to a different podcast.
Now, what were people complaining about? Because I wasn't.
They were complaining about the fact that too many times matches end now where people pass out, and I said, "Shut up!" Like, to me.
But these are the same assholes that sit there and love watching a guy tap out and pass out in UFC.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, what they're saying, well, we all know it's scripted, and they're supposed to tell us. And I was like, guys, shut up. It's simple. She put her in that Asuka sleeper hold thing, which is basically a Taz mission. And I was like, okay, so she does that. And instead of having Bayley look weak and tap out, they have her look strong and just pass out like Stone Cold did. You didn't call him a bitch when he passed out with blood on his face and, Bret Hart had him in the sharpshooter. You were like, that was fucking awesome! Did you see he didn't quit?
And he gave us one of the greatest shirts of all time, too.
Well, that's true. I still have mine, I think.
But with that, like I was starting to say, it's like this goes to like a topic that will be on like another podcast, but like fucking idiots on the internet started a petition about the Walking Dead season finale that they want AMC to release the ending of what happened at the end of the episode.
No!
What is wrong with you people? Stop your bitching. Stop being stupid.
This is what happens.
Stop it.
This is what happens when parents give children everything they want.
I'm not gonna go that far. I am not gonna. I hate the blaming of the raising of children. I blame Netflix.
Okay.
And watching.
All right. I see where you're going with this, and I like it.
And people going, well, I watched the whole season.
I sat here and watched all Daredevil in 26 hours,
Right.
We're doing a different podcast now if we're going to start getting into Walking Dead. But, I don't mind. It's not like the passing out from the exhaustion and the pain and the whole thing. It happens every once in a while. They do that. It works. I mean, nobody puts anybody in a sleeper hold anymore. Everybody taps out. Everybody used to be unconscious. That was
you would drop the arm.
Drop that arm, yeah.
Right, and then you get the two, and the arm would shoot up, and you go, "Wow, he woke back up."
I kind of missed that. During that match, when Bayley was in that hold, I wanted them to do the arm because I'm like, I missed the arm.
That's the thing; they don't do the arm anymore.
They just kind of do like the.
And her gimmick should be, instead of like the Hulk Hogan finger, she should do like that when her arm, like before that third drop, she does like the wacky waving arm thing. And that's her comeback,
That would be fantastic.
but I think I liked it because it made both of them look strong, and I also think that was the farewell for Bayley. That was her, maybe they'll give her a rematch, but obviously she's not going to win it. I don't think it'll be long before she's on Raw. It's my understanding, and this is from what I've read. Again, don't know if there's any truth to it. Vince McMahon wanted her to be a part of that 10 Divas match and not Eva Marie. and it was Triple H that said, no. We're going to go ahead and push Eva. We're not going to pull Bayley up yet because she still has stuff to do. And I'm like, but have you seen Eva wrestle? If you can call it that.
She did a move on Sunday. A move, and then went like, yay, me, and then got kicked in the back of the head.
Right, as she should have. I wish more people kicked her in the back of the head.
I'll kick her in the back of the head.
Oh, yeah, you would.
Where's my barbed wire bat? I'll take her. I'll kick her in the back of the head with that.
I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop because I know where this ends up. So I really...
I don't think there's any really call for... just because she's a crappy wrestler doesn't mean you have to beat a woman with a baseball bat.
I watched her on TV start a promo, get tripped up by the audience, and twice, and start the promo from the beginning.
I did see that.
Well, and then there was the not kicking out at 2 thing. Come on. If you know you're going to win, kick out at 2. Yes. Let's stop with her because this only is going to make us angry.
Listen, there's a reason why she gets the push.
Right, she's fucking somebody in the back.
Well, and not just that, but she looks. She looks. People want to look at her. That's people, they don't care if she can wrestle or not. People want to look at her. She will be champion.
I don't really.
She will be champion one day.
You know what? They got rid of a belt. They can give her that belt. She can walk around with that belt. And
keep the butterfly belt permanently.
It's got a butterfly on it.
Did they say anything with this new women's title? Did they say, does this go back to the old women's title that they threw away? With the old history, like Moolah and Wendy Richter, and because the Divas title, like if you look at the history of it, it starts when whoever had it for, Kelly or whoever.
I don't fucking know.
Hold on.
I don't care enough.
Michelle McCool was the first champion.
Okay, I knew somebody like that.
And that debuted back in 2008.
I always hated the butterfly belt, the Divas champion. I felt that, I knew it was a marketing thing, and but it took away from this is women's wrestling. And now they've gotten back into it, and they have some very quality. There's some quality athletes. There's some good wrestling going on. After it really kind of just had become models pulling each other's hair in the ring for a couple minutes once a night on Raw, it turned into real matches. And today it's funny that TNA is still like pushing that this is where the real women's wrestling is. And when they had Mickie James and they had Gail Kim, or they still have Gail Kim, it's like, all right, this makes sense. And an Awesome Kong but now you watch some of these women's matches and it's women pulling each other's hair.
Okay, well here is the final word for what you just asked. The WWE Women's Championship is a women's professional championship in the WWE promotion. It is not to be confused with the WWE Women's Championship, which was active from 1956 to 2010. They're showing that Charlotte is the inaugural champ and that nobody else has held it. So this is, because this is a new belt, title, whatever you want to call it, it's starting a whole new era, if you will.
Okay.
So they are not attaching it to Moolah, Mae Young, Lita, Sable.
Mae Young never held it. Moolah held it 30 years or something.
Right. Where they basically stopped doing women's wrestling, and then she lost to Richter, right?
Wendy Richter, and then got it back from Wendy Richter.
Right.
And then Rockin' Robin, and then Sensational Sherry.
Hold on a second.
And then I'm going to lose my...
Lonnie
I
Kai
can't
had it in there.
believe I remember any of this. Medusa got in there at some point.
They dropped it in a trash can.
Yeah, actually, I think that's what they wanted to get away from that title, is just the fact that it got thrown in the garbage.
Yeah.
And that's probably what it is. It looks like it was deactivated in 1990, and then that's when Alundra Blaze won.
Yeah, I remember they had a tournament when she showed up.
Right.
Like Bull Nakana and...
Right. It was Alundra, then Bull, then Alundra, then Bertha Faye, which is an embarrassment, then Alundra, then it was deactivated again, and then it was Jackie, Sable, Deborah, Ivory, Moolah. Oh, you know what? I don't see Mae Young. I thought.
Yeah, I don't think Mae Young ever helped.
Was she hardcore champion at one point in time,
Mae
though?
may have been hardcore champion.
Yeah, they don't have Mae Young listed here at all. So, yeah.
But anyway,
Moolah probably wouldn't put her over. That was probably what happened.
That's probably why. Yeah.
but anyway, let's get on to the big show of the weekend.
Well, I know we were bullshitting about NXT. I wanted to talk about the Hall of Fame a little bit.
Okay,
First
all right.
of all,
I had an issue with the Hall of Fame. All right.
well, I was going to say first things first. I felt the crowd was much more behaved this year.
I
than in
agree.
previous years. And I don't know if someone came out and made an announcement before it went on air, but I remember Jericho going on a rip last year about how they were whatting and, they were, whatever. But, like, the thing that got me was they were whatting Connor the Crusher's dad, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? I mean, I get it. Not everybody was happy that the Bushwhackers went in the Hall of Fame, but Jericho made a point. Those guys put their bodies on the line to the point where the one came out with double crutches, and it's like, he got his one last hurrah, and I think it's fantastic. But it's
They went in on the merits of what they did before they were the
sheep herders. Yeah, they went in.
The sheep herders.
Right. The culmination of their career, and they talked about that. They talked about those guys being around for 30 years in the business or something like that.
Right. So,
but it's odd. This is my issue with the Hall of Fame, that I kind of was picking on it this year, and I know they've done it in the past, and I guess it depends on who the person is. But the Bushwhackers go in, and the sheep herders get mentioned, and Johnny Ace comes out and does their thing about how when he was the flag bearer for the sheep herders,
right,
and they talk about that stuff. But then this year, the Godfather goes in, and he's just the Godfather.
Right.
There's no mention. And I mean, Papa Shango is kind of a goofy gimmick, but people remember Papa Shango.
It worked. And Kama Mustafa and Kama.
Yeah, Kama, and I always felt Kama Mustafa and the Godfather were kind of the same character, that he just kind of developed the Kama, because he was still Kama Mustafa, and then The Rock started calling him, the Godfather, Kama Mustafa.
Right.
And then they dropped the Kama Mustafa, and he just became the Godfather.
Right.
So that was more of an evolution of that character.
That's true.
But there was no, he had a big feud with The Undertaker when he was Kama. He had, he was involved in that Ultimate Warrior weirdness.
Yeah.
When he was Papa Shango, and people still talk about Papa Shango. So I was like, all right, there's a lot of history that got left out there, and it was the Godfather, and they specifically went on one part of his career.
Well, it's kind of like when they inducted Razor Ramon.
Razor Ramon, I was surprised. That's another one where it's like, all right, he's just Razor Ramon, but it's. There's a lot there, and there was a ton with him being in the business for so long before he even became Razor Ramon.
Right. They didn't talk about the Diamond Stud. They didn't talk about obviously the Outsiders and the NWO.
They didn't talk about the AWA stuff. He was tag champ with Kurt Hennig.
Yeah.
I think.
Right. Exactly. But they inducted Kevin Nash as Kevin Nash, not Diesel.
Right.
And I was like, did they not do the Scott Hall thing because of all the alcohol? Like, I
That
don't.
might have been that. I was just gonna say that. I'm wondering
Like-
if they did that to kind of distance themselves in a way from the name of Scott Hall.
Well, that way kids weren't Googling Scott Hall and going, "Oh, look at him drunk at a whatever."
Yeah.
Whatever. But I just thought it was fantastic. The crowd was respectful. I mean, they were into it, but they were respectful the entire night. They didn't, boo anybody off stage. They didn't,
there wasn't too many people to be booed off stage. Aside from, I thought maybe they would beat up Snoop a little bit, but I didn't even watch the Snoop stuff. I didn't care.
I don't know how they could hate Snoop. Snoop is Snoop.
It's tough that it's just one of those things. It's so like, I'm
not a huge fan of the celebrity wing anyway, but like, when they announced Snoop Dogg, I'm like, he has been on Raw a lot.
Yeah, he has been on. And with me, the celebrity wing, who was the first inductee?
Pete Rose?
Was it Pete Rose?
I want to say
Yes.
Pete Rose.
It was Pete Rose.
Hold on a second.
I got it here. Pete Rose in 2004. William Perry in 2006.
Oh, Jesus, I forgot about that.
Bob Uecker in 2010. Drew Carey in 2011, which was really... Drew Carey had a What's My Line pay-per-view event coming up right around the time, right after WrestleMania.
Right.
That was... I think he just kind of bought some time. It was odd. Because his only real thing was a Royal Rumble appearance.
Right, in which he was in for like 45 seconds before, because the Hardy Boys threw each other out, and then he was in the ring by himself, and then Kane showed up, and that was the year Kane threw out 10 people or whatever, and he jumped out because, why wouldn't you?
And then 2012, you had Tyson, and Tyson was involved with a lot of stuff, and Tyson's a big wrestling fan.
Right.
2013, where we got to boo Donald Trump in person before it was cool.
Before it was cool.
You guys were hipster Trump.
We were.
But you know what? And Chris and I talked about this on Sunday, was as much as you would hate him, he did host WrestleMania 4 and 5, which made them a huge event.
Yeah.
And he does technically kind of have a WrestleMania. He has a WrestleMania moment. He bought Raw. At one point, he owned Raw for like a week.
Well,
but also and this is one of the things I hate about Donald Trump as a person. Back when he did host WrestleMania 4 and 5, he wanted to lock in WrestleMania 4 and 5 so it would always be in Atlantic City at the convention center, so it could be another one of his. So it could be a Donald Trump presents type of thing, which is him making money off other people's work again, which is his MO.
Right. No, that makes sense.
And the other now that we got political for a second, let's talk about Mr. T. Mr. T was a big part of early WrestleMania and went hand in hand. And I think with some of these guys, Mr. T, and then it was Schwarzenegger after him, they did a good job of cross-promoting wrestling.
Yes.
Where Mr. T was on WrestleMania, but Hulk Hogan was on the A-Team.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was a big, big thing.
And they were both in Rocky 3, which makes me feel like it's a short time before Sylvester Stallone goes into Celebrity Hall.
Sylvester Stallone, again, was another guy who's been involved with, he helped make Hulk Hogan. Terry Funk did a lot of work with Stallone and
the
stuff. Yes. And they actually did a wrestling movie. Oh, shit. 1980 or something like that. Amanda Sante, Sylvester Stallone, and one more guy. And it was about wrestling. Something Alley. Shit.
I'll look it up.
But anyway, Terry Funk's in that too. It's like 79 or 80. But, Schwarzenegger was another guy who he did a lot for, getting wrestlers out there. Andre. I mean, you didn't see Andre and Conan the Destroyer, but Jesse in Predator, he was around and involved and being connected with Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah.
That's true.
He inducted Bruno.
Right.
We were there for that.
We were there for that.
Paradise Alley,
Yeah, Paradise Alley.
1978. Yep.
Yeah, wrestling movie. I was, and I've only seen about half of it, and it's like wrestling in the 30s.
Yep. Armand Asante. Oh man, there's some good. Yeah.
But going back to what I was saying about The Godfather and them not mentioning anything else, they did the same thing with Big Boss Man. That they only talked about the Big Boss Man stuff.
Well, they did. There was a little bit of one of those. I love that they had Slick do that because everyone says that they weren't really friends in real life. That he was closer to One Man Gang or Akeem or whatever you want to call him this week. But I feel like every story I've ever heard from anybody who did a shoot on Boss Man had nothing negative to say about him.
Right.
That this guy you would ever meet, that he kept kayfabe. One of my favorite stories is when Cornette told the story
about him slamming the door in his hands.
Slamming the door on his hands, and then he no-sold it. He went inside, and they were like, as soon as he walked in the doors and it shut and no fans were around, he was crying and just like, oh, my hand is broken. And they was like, you stood there and took that? And he was like, yeah. But there was something in Slick's speech where he said something about Guardian Angel, and I was like,
I did get that.
Like, there we go. I was like, he had it in there. So, but yeah, I don't think they did much about the WCW stuff because obviously he showed up as the boss, and then WWE sued them and was like, you can't be the boss.
And then he was Big Bubba.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he was Big Bubba first.
Well, it was Big Bubba first, yeah.
He was Big Bubba with the Midnight Express, but again, and Cornette's kind of talked about that because everybody kind of said I did hear Cornette on one of his podcast things. They asked him if he thinks he's going to be there to induct Boss Man, and he's like, no. He goes, they're not, it's because they're not going to talk about that stuff, and they're not going to mention the Midnight Express, and
I really like going into the whole. It had to be Slick.
Yeah,
it had.
If it wasn't Slick, then it would have had to be like. I would think like Sergeant Slaughter or one of those guys that he ended up tagging up with in the 90s before he went down to WCW. You know what I mean? Like him or Hacksaw or I don't know. But I'm
trying to think of somebody. And I think his kids did a good job of kind of coming out and being like, we were little kids and,
right.
We didn't realize how cool it was for our dad to be in this world and
now
we didn't eat the dog. And
yeah. I was like, pepper steak was not actually served. I was like,
and that is when I own the WWE or WWF cookbook, and there is a recipe in there for pepper steak.
Good God.
And there's actually, in their defense, there are two versions of pepper steak in there, but one of them is the Boss Man's get Al Snow's Chihuahua pepper steak.
Oh my gosh.
Which is awesome.
I love the Freebird speech, but I thought it went on about 20 minutes too long.
Well, you knew if that was going to be, and they even said, we're going to be the long speech.
Right.
That was, if you want to talk about shocking moments, when Jimmy Jam Garvin came out on that stage.
And started dancing?
Not started dancing, just when I saw him, and I said, oh my God.
Yeah, right.
If you had lined up 5 dudes and said, one of these guys is Jimmy Jam Garvin,
you would not have picked the dude that
I
got on
wouldn't have picked
stage.
that dude.
I loved Sting's speech. I loved how he had positive words about the Warrior. I loved his impression of the Warrior and how he was like, You've never been to a Waffle House? I was like, yes, that's awesome. But
That's where we should have gone Saturday after the race.
we should have. We should have gone to the Waffle House. But, you know, hindsight.
I enjoyed the stories. I liked that they had the kids come out for Terry and Buddy, and I liked that they ended it with Kevin Von Erich coming out.
Yes.
In Dallas, and because that was one of those things. That was one of those hand-in-hand rivalries. Freebirds, Von Erichs. They made everybody got rich. They got rich off each other. There used to be 8 of them. There's 3 left.
Right.
But I did note. I don't know if you guys caught it when Kevin mentioned his sons.
Yes.
And I don't know if they're in any form of the business. But if you told me that there were 2 young Von Erichs, that was exactly what I pictured. Those guys looked like Texas football player, wrestler,
Oh yeah.
athlete.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me see here. Does he have? Yeah, 4 children. They have a daughter, 2 daughters, and 2 sons. But they're young, like 24 and 21.
Yeah, they were definitely young. I might have thought they could have been teenagers.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
they're I don't know if they both looked. They were both in good shape, athletic looking kids.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and Terry Gordy's son looked just like him. I mean, he just wasn't as big as Terry was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But these Von Erich kids looked exactly like all the other Von Erichs, all the big
I was
shoulders.
gonna say, well, didn't all the Von Erichs look exactly alike? It was like one of those weird cult families where you're like, oh, are they all related? Like inbreeding? But
I think everybody in Texas just kind of looks alike to a point. Everybody in Texas either looks like a Von Erich or a Funk. There's only 2 family trees. You'd be like, Willie Nelson's from Texas. He's Funk. Yeah.
Are you from the Funk family or are you from the Von Erich family? No, I like it.
Steve Austin would be a Von Erich. It's it just kind of breaks down like that.
It does. I like it. Speaking of Steve Austin, let's move on to the Big Show. Not the wrestler, the Big Show.
Well, no.
We've already talked more about him than we probably should in this podcast.
We'll mention him
Well, we have to. We have to.
Because there was a shocking moment kind of involving him.
Well, that's true. Obviously, on the pre-show, we had 3 matches. Because WrestleMania was 7.5 hours long or something like that. I don't know.
It was ridiculously
It was too damn
long.
It was too damn long.
And we were running behind. We were running a good 45 minutes behind for various reasons.
Yes.
So WrestleMania for us ended on Tuesday morning.
It did at 12:45. But so we had Kalisto versus Ryback. I really thought they were going to put Ryback over here, and they didn't.
I gotta say, I totally missed that match.
So did we. I caught an interview going on with our panel, and I heard Kalisto's music in the background, and I was like, oh, apparently he beat Ryback. And I was like, okay, whatever. Then the Team Total Divas versus the Team Bad and Blonde or whatever. The highlight for that, for me, was seeing Lana. That's it.
Yeah, I did see a picture.
That match was
It's clusterfuck.
It was a clusterfuck. There were divas in that match, or I should say, the only reason they were in that match was because they're on that stupid show. Paige should have not been in that match. She should have been in. It should have been a fatal 4-way for the title.
Right. I agree.
I guess Natty was in that match. She's another one. Should be in the title picture, not.
Well, and I think after Raw, she might be, because
I think
she went after Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I like that. I was like, yes, finally. Because her and Charlotte had some great matches on NXT. And I was just like, wow, why is this not happening up here? Oh, because they're calling it Divas matches, which I read an article that the term Diva is now retired from vernacular to announcers. It goes along with, belt and choke and any other word they're not supposed to say. Apparently, it's now women's wrestling again. So they're not supposed to call them divas anymore.
So what's the show that's on E going to be called? Total Women's Wrestling?
Total bullshit. That's I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't care.
Never watched it. Don't care.
Anyway, so that match was a clusterfuck, just like I thought it was going to be. You had two people carry the match for 3.5 to 4 minutes, and then everyone got their finisher in, and then it was like, okay, all right, they're going to give this one to Bella because she's going to retire, and then for some stupid reason, Nikki Bella came out with a damn neck brace on, and I was like, where's Rick Rude when you need him?
You did say that. You did say that.
Literally, we said that. We're like, where's Rick Rude when you need it? And my other friend, Courtney, who was with us watching, she's like, oh, that's so rude. And I was like, is it? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I don't like her, and I'd be okay if someone re-broke her neck. I mean, I'm not saying paralyze or kill her, just off TV. Thanks. And then we had the Usos and the Dudley Boys, which we were both pissed that the Dudley Boys were even on the pre-show. That is just insult.
Dudley Boys shouldn't have been on the pre-show. Dudley Boys should have been wrestling New Day for the titles.
That's true.
And I had said a while back, April was their 20-year anniversary of being a tag team.
Right.
It's now April, and they're wrestling the Usos on the pre-show. Are you kidding me?
It was.
It is, and you're giving the League of Unextraordinary Gentlemen the tag title shot.
Well, yeah, that. And I had no interest in that. I think we even fast forwarded through to the end on that one, only because we were just like, we've seen this match every Monday Night Raw for the last 6 months.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like a couple of these matches were matches we'd seen for a month or so on Raw.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing with Jericho AJ, which I like both of them. I think they work well together, but I was kind of bored with that match.
So was I.
There was a lot in it that I'm like, okay, we've kind of seen this a couple times already now, but I liked it as it being the last match of that feud.
Yeah.
And I also liked the way they kind of wrapped it up, they kind of did it the next day where, everybody kind of was like, they bring in AJ Styles and they have him lose at WrestleMania, and they're wasting him, and now he's the #1 contender the next day.
I still feel like Jericho is going to ruin his championship match. It's going to happen.
I don't know if they're going to put Jericho in that picture. I think they're going to go. I don't know. They're going in different directions. It seems like there's a lot of different directions that they're going to move everybody in.
Basically, what you're saying is creative does another hand from their ass.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm saying that
are taking balls without.
This is what I think happened. That they, I'll skip ahead a little bit as we're going through the matches, but Roman Reigns wins the title from Triple H. As much as they tried, that opening where Stephanie McMahon is literally like, bow before us, you dogs, to try and get heat on them.
We thought she looked like Tina Turner from Mad Max.
That's exactly what I said to Angela. That's exactly what I said to my wife.
I was trying to think.
Because I'm dressed like a Mad Max character. That's exactly what she looked like, a villain from a Mad Max movie.
Well, we'll go back to that match.
But
you say your point. Then
in the time with the AJ thing and the and that match, that #1 contenders match, here after the day that you had, they put the title on the guy that half the fans hate.
Mm-hmm.
You have a number one contenders match with AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Sami Zayn.
Cesaro got subbed
And
in.
Cesaro, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Sami Zayn was out and it was Cesaro. I forgot that they did that bit. So you have 4 of the guys that that the other half love.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, all right, so you're gonna get you kind of won your audience back after everybody went shit. Now Roman Reigns is champion.
Right.
Now it's gonna get interesting.
Look what you did, you
And
little jerk.
And speaking of interesting, we didn't talk about the ladder match.
You both of us at the same time yelled, "Oh my God!"
in
then we
our,
looked at each
in our
other.
most natural Joey Styles voice as well. It
Right.
wasn't like, it wasn't premeditated. But when Owens took that a suplex through the...
Yeah, it was like the T-Bone Tazplex through the ladder, and it was
And then
just like,
stayed there.
oh yeah, he sold the fuck out of that. We thought
Somebody
he was
made-
actually dead.
Somebody made a great meme with little Simba doing the paw up,
Oh, that's
touching Kevin
amazing.
Owens' body.
That's awesome. I gotta look
I
that
have to
up.
look for that now. But yeah, that was a sick spot. And I thought, like, okay, he's legitimately hurt because he didn't fucking move.
Which just shows his professionality.
Absolutely. And then that match gave us kind of our feel-good moment.
It really did. It kind of was like yeah.
But
Right.
that feel-good moment was 4 fucking years too late.
It really was. It was like, oh, all the fucking shine is off this lily, and now we have.
And it was like, this dude is, he was fucking white hot 4 years ago. He hasn't won a match in 4 years. He's on NXT teaming up with me as the Hype Bros.
Yeah.
And now he's the
Yeah.
Intercontinental Champion for 24
Oh my.
But yeah, I almost knew it was one of those things. I had that surprise reaction of Zack Ryder won the title, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna lose it tomorrow.
Yeah,
Well,
I knew right away. But I even like the way that they did that. That it makes it now if he feuds with the Miz a little bit, it almost makes it an interesting Miz feud. That if Miz is gonna have Maurice in his corner, or Maurice. That hot blonde chick that he's married to, that wrestled for that attempt when women's wrestling was models pulling each other's hair.
Yes.
That was- and then Zack Ryder's jacked up dad. I liked that they kept referring to him as Zack Ryder's goofy dad.
Yes.
But the fact that he's this like gray-haired, 60-something-year-old guy, but he's Diesel. He's
he is. He's in better shape than his kid.
Well, so, when I'm watching, I'm like, why is he concerned that the 98-pound little French lady is gonna come over and mess with his gigantic dad?
Yeah.
And they're from Long Island, so it's not like he's not above smacking some girl with fake boobs.
Sense. This makes
Right.
no. But yeah, that kind of gave us our feel good moment of the night. It was a solid match. It was a solid ladder match.
And as soon as that occurred, as soon as Ryder won, my first thought after, oh my God, did that just happen? And hey, that's fantastic, was, oh, that was Neville's spot. If he wouldn't have broken his ankle, I feel like that was Neville's spot.
But on the flip side of that, on that line of thinking of like, they gave the title to Zack Ryder because he was the one that came into the match because Neville got hurt.
Right.
They rewrite this fucking show while the show is still on the air.
Yeah.
That's the one thing they don't change.
Right, exactly. I seriously thought that they might give it to Rhodes. I mean, yeah, Rhodes. I'm not going to refer to him as the other thing.
Which
I've
he is. I think they are definitely starting to going to be doing away with the Stardust gimmick.
Well,
I really like the Stardust gimmick. It's
I
just
do
so
too.
stupid, and it's so and the fact that he goes out in other places and sells it so big. Like, there was a Comic-Con someplace, or it might have been actually, I don't think it was Comic-Con. I think it was Heroes and Villains Fest, which is one of those touring groups like Walker Stalker, where they have all the people who play superheroes on the TVs and the movies at a convention. And it's really, there's a little bit of merch, and then you're getting a bunch of autographs, and there's panels. But they were Stephen Amell was doing a panel that was crashed by
Stardust.
And he just stayed in Stardust character the whole time, and
Nice.
I did see Cody Rhodes on WWE television recently. He made an appearance on the show that totally reeks of awesomeness.
Which I love. I love that show so much.
It has been a really fun, enjoyable show. It reminds me, it's so Canadian, and it's so.
Oh, it really is.
It's like if they brought back "You Can't Do That on Television" with Edge and Christian being.
If you're not watching the Edge and Christian show that totally reeks of awesomeness, you're just doing it wrong. You need to be watching that show.
And there's different references to things. Did you see the bit they did? It was them and AJ Styles.
I haven't seen that episode yet.
It was. We're gonna play a round of will WWE mention it?
Right.
I heard it.
And they're like, okay, AJ, we're gonna go with the group you were in Japan. Will WWE mention? And then they put up the tweet about the Bullet Club and AJ Styles, and they're like, oh yeah. And then they're like, okay, AJ, the company that you worked for from, and they gave the dates.
Right.
He's like, will they mention it? And AJ goes, no, they're not gonna mention it. And you're like, you're right, they're not gonna mention it. And they put up a picture of Trish, Test, and Albert.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's so awesome.
Yes, that's amazing. Yes.
And it was, it said T ampersand A.
That's nice.
That's fantastic.
So we've moved on from our happy moment, our shiny happy people moment of WrestleMania. We move on to this Chris Jericho AJ Styles match, which wasn't a terrible match. It was just kind of boring because we've seen it for the last 4 weeks.
It was one of those, it's a good match, but now we've seen it 4 weeks in a row. And it's like, you can only kind of give me a match between the same two guys over and over again without another element. I thought they should have been in the ladder match.
That's what I was waiting for, is for that. I thought that they would put Styles in there and give him the belt. Or Zayn, I thought they'd give him the belt.
Yeah.
Chance to run on, and because I think he'd be a fantastic intercontinental champion. But I also thought that AJ Styles would go over, and he didn't. And it was like, not only did he not go over, but Jericho kicked out of the Styles Clash, and I'm like, I knew he did it before, but he did it on Raw. This is WrestleMania. You don't kick out of a finish at WrestleMania unless you're Hulk Hogan.
Actually, that's what they should have done. They should have done that in the opposite way. He should have not kicked out of it on Raw, and he should have kicked out of it in WrestleMania. That's a bigger moment.
Right. No, that makes sense. I mean, and I would have been okay that way, but that's not how it worked. So
and I almost for the character that they're going for AJ Styles, and this I kind of got a little insight because I listened to the Jericho podcast with AJ Styles, and apparently when AJ sat down with Vince, kind of the gimmick that they went for is the pit bull.
Right.
That he's this relentless, he's just going to keep coming. And, having AJ lose and then triumph the next day, I think continues that character that they're trying to set up for him.
I just sent Tom the picture of Sid Kevin Owens.
That is amazing. I want to make that like my Facebook title picture. Come on, Dad, wake up! Wake up, Dad! All right, sorry. But I also feel like WrestleMania, the way they have to book those matches and what order they have to do them, they can't, like, that ladder match was boom. It started WrestleMania off. Even last year when they did it, it was an amazing match with a lot of high spots and shit like that. So you got everyone excited, and then you kind of have to bring them down a little bit. And I think that's what the Jericho Styles match was, because we knew there was going to be some spots, but we also knew it was going to be a good, solid technical match. It wasn't going to be, a Ring of Honor shit show. And then it was like, okay, well, what comes next? And it was like, oh, there's a big old box of Bootios. And I'm like, the only thing that could have happened better than that, and I told Chris and my brother, actually I texted my brother a few days before, I was like, they're in Texas, horses are not uncommon, they need to put fucking unicorn horns on white horses and ride out. And when they came out dressed like Dragon Ball Z, I flipped my shit. I was like, he's got a fucking monkey tail! Ah, this is amazing!
The giant box of Bootios was fantastic.
Right, it was. It was amazing. And then when they came out just like, I was like, oh my god, his hair, he's Super Saiyan! Oh my god! This is amazing! And I realized that they're doing that face change now, which we all predicted a year and a half ago. Well, no we didn't.
No we didn't, because I didn't think they were going to be around.
I predicted it. I said that they hate the New Day the way they hated The Rock.
Yeah. I still hate them.
Right. But so we get that match, which since it wasn't for the title, I knew immediately, okay, well, the League of Nations is going to go over. Did I think that afterwards Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, and Stone Cold Steve Austin were going to come out and clear the ring and just destroy people? No. Was it awesome? Yes.
It absolutely was. And the best part of that was the next night on Monday Night Raw when they were talking about it. And they're like, they're talking about getting stunned, Xavier Woods talking about getting stunned by Austin, and he's like, yeah, I deserve that. It's like, yeah, he's like, I should have seen that coming. I deserved it.
But I also enjoyed how Austin was shilling his actual,
drinking his beer.
Broken Skull IPA, which I'm dying to find, but I think it's Texas local.
But it's like he was shilling that more than Bradshaw was shilling the network. I was like,
are we going to have to do a Smokey the Bandit to go get some Broken Skull IPA?
We may have to go get some Broken Skull IPA. Let's get it. Let's.
All right, I call it Trans Am.
That way, all three of us can have one during a podcast.
Yes.
But
there's beer in Texarkana, and they're thirsty in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
And then we had Brock Lesnar and Dean
Get Jerry Reed back up from the dead and have him write a new song. Real quick on the Shawn Michaels, Mankind, Steve Austin thing, which I liked, and it was a fun little thing. And this is something that's always irked me, because it happened here, and it happens at other times. And whenever it does happen, it bugs me. As a wrestling fan who wants the illusion to be there, even though I know it's fake, I still want you to sell the illusion for me.
Right.
So here's my issue. Even though it was cool, and I was glad they came out and they fought, and you got to see them a little bit. Shawn Michaels wasn't booked to wrestle. Why was it his fucking wrestling clothes? Does he just wander around Texas in his fucking...
Because he comes out, and Tom turns to me and goes, he's in his gear.
That's, there's somebody put together a Facebook meme for that, and it was It was the overreacting Seth Rollins.
Yes.
He's like,
Yeah,
grabbing
I saw that.
and it's like, he's in his gear.
The only thing I would have marked harder for is if Austin would have come out in the black trunks and knee braces.
Well, and we slowly started to see it. It was Michaels came out in his camo gear, and I was like, he's in his wrestling gear? And I was like, and he had his hair plugs redone.
Yes.
Well, you gotta have him done for the big, the big day.
But he also looked good, like for.
He did look good. He's looked like shit. He looked like he looked like Greg Allman the past couple times I've seen him.
Yeah, he has. You're right. But then when Mick Foley came out, and I had heard that he had lost a bunch of weight doing DDP yoga.
Yeah, he lost 50 pounds or something like that. Yeah.
And he looked like he did the last time he wrestled actively in like 2004, 2005, before he went to TNA. He looked good. It was good to see that.
And Austin looked good. And it's one of those things. Austin wrestled in jeans and a t-shirt half the time anyway.
That's true.
Yeah.
All he did was stunning people.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just like one of those, moments that I know, like, had he walked out of out from behind that curtain in the black trunks, vest, and knee braces, I would have lost my damn mind.
Right.
Now, I'm only slightly perturbed for things like that. It's the same thing like with Wade. If Wade Barrett wasn't scheduled to wrestle in the 3-man match, why is he in his gear? That always just bothers me when somebody shows up and it's like he's in his gear. It's like at the NXT thing. If we didn't forgot to mention this, but if Bobby Roode was sitting in the audience in his gear,
it was stupid.
These guys don't walk around in their trunks.
And going back to that, and Bobby Roode sitting in the audience, how shitty does James Storm have to feel?
Pretty stupid.
Actually, this is something I want to bring up. We're getting away from WrestleMania. Well, you know what? James Storm took a big-ass contract to go and work there. It was more money than WWE was offering him. Now he's not going to have a gimmick. They're going to have to find something new for him.
He went back because they were going to put beer money back together. And they did. They put beer money back together.
And it was working. It was one of the most interesting things about TNA because they're some of the stuff they with the little bit I've been watching, I'm like, all right, beer money, and they're feuding with Abyss and Crazy Steve, and they're doing different things, and I'm like, okay, they're mixing things up a little bit here that I'm kind of interested in. But now I'm almost like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is just the train wreck because 2 of their big names are gone again that are going to be on TV for another, because Eric Young is gone.
Eric Young is gone as well.
So here's my idea. You have Bobby Roode. And you have Eric Young. You bring them both in. You put them together. Because they were together.
I don't know Team Canada.
But so was Bobby Roode and Austin Aries.
Yeah.
Right. But wait, you have that.
Go ahead,
you have these two. All right, these 2 guys are coming in now. Austin Aries kind of already established himself. If you bring these 2 guys in, and there's these 2 Canadians, and they were Team Canada. You bring them in, and they are the new Mounties. And they're in the outfits, and the song's playing, and they walk out, and they do the match, and then they grab a microphone, and they do the fuck this, and they come in as these disgruntled outsiders that we're not going to be the Mounties. We're not going to, we're going to be Eric Young and Bobby Roode. And they even changed their names so they're more like French Canadian, like they're Robert Roode and
what they need to do is Robert Roode.
Yes.
What they need to do is, if you're going to do that, you got to have.
You get Jacques Rougeau to come out as their manager.
Yes.
In the whole thing and
beat the shit out of him.
Beat the shit out of Jacques Rougeau. The way that the New Age Outlaws beat up Honky Tonk Man when they formed the New Age Outlaws.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank goodness, because Rockabilly wasn't going very well.
I just booked your Eric Young, Bobby Roode.
Fantastic.
So
All right, back to WrestleMania.
The Mounties voice the vaudevillains at the next NXT pay-per-view. That's
I'm already sleeping
now.
because of that. So speaking of sleeping, Brock Lesnar, Dean Ambrose. If there was one match that didn't live up to the hype, it was that one.
I don't remember a goddamn thing about that match, and that was the match I was looking forward to.
You know, when somebody brought up, I think I saw this on Twitter, and it made perfect sense. They have him on Raw pulling around a wagon of weapons,
Right, and then it's gone.
and then he didn't bring it to the ring.
street fight. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I mean, obviously we knew he wasn't going to use the chainsaw because that's murder. But
That would be awesome, though.
What I really wanted him to do was I wanted a gagged chainsaw, so that he actually came in and hit Brock, and Brock Lesnar no-sells a chainsaw.
And it falls apart.
Like a Three Stooges bit. Like he just stands there and he no-sells the chainsaw. And then suplexes a
Right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all that happened. There was 15 or 16 of those. There was a bunch of kendo sticks broken.
I don't think Ambrose lost any. It just wasn't a memorable match.
I think if anything, it helped him gain a little bit of steam because it's it showed how tough he is, and it helped build that never say die. You knew he was in a losing situation, but he made the best of it.
Yeah.
And the street fights, the no hold barred, the weapons matches aren't the same without the headshots
And blood.
and without blood. And I understand why they're not doing the headshots. So it's one of those weird things. It's like saying I missed the headshots, but I'm glad the headshots are gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like every time I'm like, oh man, I wish they would just do some headshots. A picture in my brain pops up of Chris Benoit strangling a child, and I'm like, oh yeah. We don't need
that. Or just
it's really what they should show. Every asshole that complains about there not being headshots in WWE anymore, just be like, hey, Chris Benoit strangled his wife and child. This is a head injury.
Either that, or Mick Foley handcuffed and The Rock just pummeling the hell out of him.
I tried watching that. I can't watch it anymore. But I remember when I was 18 years old going, fucking hit him! Hit him! Hit him, damn it! Hit him!
Yeah.
And then it was now I go, oh! And then I have my eyes closed and I just hear the pinging off of his head and I go, oh, I can't watch this anymore. And maybe it's because I've met Mick and I know how nice of a guy he is. And, it's just ugh. Or maybe it's just because
that's one of those things that in the future it's hard to watch.
Right.
That leads us into things in the present that are kind of hard to watch.
Like Shane McMahon taking a 40-foot dive. Oh.
You knew it was going to happen.
Oh, I knew it.
You kind of knew. I mean, you knew the outcome of that match. Anyway, I don't necessarily understand it because that match kind of made the whole, our product sucks thing kind of pointless. But again, I'm sitting there with Tom, and they're lowering this fucking cage. And Tom looks at me and goes, that cage is bigger.
Yes. And
I'm looking at it and going, yeah, not just a little bigger. That's that's a big cage.
Right. Those panels were rectangles, not squares, and they used to be squares. And I was like,
yeah. And this is one of those. This was one of the very few times that I think the height of something in professional wrestling was not exaggerated.
Right. Even JR couldn't have exaggerated. Well, he could have, but That's 70-foot fall.
It would've been
70-foot fall.
That's a 45-foot ladder, King.
Right, yeah, 45-foot ladder, King. Wait a minute, that couldn't be 40. You're telling me that's?
But you know what? Even back like the Razor Ramon, if you go back and watch the Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels ladder match, they talk about that ladder being 15 or 20 foot. It's like an 8-foot ladder.
I was just gonna say that was when the ladder was real, like one of those orange ladders, and you were like, that had no give, that hurt. Not to say that falling on a ladder doesn't hurt anymore.
And WrestleMania 10, I was a kid, much like Zack Ryder watching it. I wasn't there, but I didn't know. Then I'm just like, oh, it's a 15-foot ladder because I don't know how to judge things like that.
Right.
And then when I got into the construction business and somebody told me, yeah, you can tell how if somebody asks you for a 6-foot ladder, 8-foot ladder, it's how many steps it has.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so I'm watching wrestling, and it would be then now as an adult, and JR would be like, oh, that's a 25-foot ladder. It's a 15-foot ladder there, Jim.
But this cage was all of 40+ feet.
Yeah, and all four of us got up. My brother ran to the bathroom before the spot happened because he didn't want to see it. We were all standing doing the old horror movie as a child thing where you're like,
I'm not watching, but I'm watching.
I'm watching, but I'm not. And I was like, he's not going to do it. And then he did the cross thing, and I was like, oh, fuck, he's going to jump. And I was like, what's the worst case scenario? I was like, well, obviously the Undertaker's not going to lay there and let him hit. I'm like, if he landed on him, that would have killed him.
I'm standing there screaming, Mark, you better fucking catch him.
Oh, he was like, Mark, you better fucking catch him. You better fucking catch him. He is going to die. He is going to die. And then it happened.
I love Shane, and Shane has taken over the career, the wrestling career that Shane has had. He has taken some crazy, crazy bumps, some crazy falls.
Right.
That one could have gone so bad.
Ugh. Just a little bit one way or the other, and he's dead. On the spot. Just splat right in front of his kids. And on live TV. Again.
They obviously, Undertaker wins the match. After that, I mean, he has to after that.
I just brought it up, and I'm looking at it. I think you guys got caught up in the moment a little
We
bit.
probably did.
It's not 45 feet.
It's not 45. No, I know it's not. But it's still.
No.
I've been working 45 feet up in the air. This is 20 feet.
It probably is, but it looked a good 45 feet in the moment, and that's all that matters.
45 feet is a warehouse.
Yeah.
Like the like if it was in the garden, the ceiling of the garden is only probably 60 feet away from the ring.
Okay, here's what they say. The original Hell in a Cell was only 16 feet high, but has since been replaced by a 20-foot tall.
Yeah,
so
I was just saying that's 20 feet.
Only 20 feet, but it looked like 35 or 40. And I know it's all in the camera angles, but...
Well, it's got great perspective, because I'm looking at it now, and when he jumps, they're panned back enough so you have that depth of the football field behind him, and you just have that sea of people. So it creates this fantastic image of him being on top of a mountain, of him falling 60 feet. I'm not taking anything away from
Captain Killjoy.
I'm trying not to take anything away from it. I'm like, when you guys start talking 45 feet, I'm like, and what made me think about it was because I was just listening to a thing where they were talking about a guy that fell off of a painter's scaffold or a window washer's scaffold in Manhattan and lived, and he fell something crazy like 200 feet or whatever, and he wound up living. And they said they were talking to this doctor, and they said anything over 50 feet and your chances of survival are like halved, or you know, I forget what it is, but it's a crazy number. And I mean, an 8-foot fall could kill you. A 10-foot fall could kill you easily. And this, if he missed that table, or if he caught the corner of the table, he would have fucked himself up.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
But I mean,
Well,
that was definitely the ridiculous spot of the night.
yeah.
You know, and that table was definitely rigged up to blow
Oh, it
out.
definitely was. You saw the
Yeah.
airbag underneath it.
And it had the airbag underneath it, and it was like, all right, you know, you take away. Again, you know, I'm like, if you know you have an airbag underneath it, and you do so much with camera angles, don't put a guy back there where you're going to show me the airbag after all
Right.
this.
Right. Or don't show the table slowly, like collapsing to the ground afterwards. So after that, we were sitting there and we were talking, and my brother was like, well, "You guys had to have missed the Battle Royal," and we were like, "No, we know we didn't fast forward through it." He was like, "There's no way this would go on right before the heavyweight championship match."
But they had to. It had to. And that's what
They
we were
had to
arguing
bring
with
it
them. It had to. Because it had to bring it down.
And I liked.
I did the same thing. I thought the Battle Royal was in the pre-show, and I just missed it.
Well, it originally was supposed to be, and then they replaced it with the Divas match, and they said, well, the Andre Battle Royal really should be part of the main event, or part of the main show, which I absolutely agree, because if you're gonna honor Andre, freaking put it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I was sitting there and I was like, do they have 20 guys? I didn't think they had 20 guys that hadn't already competed.
And they brought in a couple extras.
Tatanka, we saw Tatanka.
Tatanka was there.
Yeah.
DDP came out. And then in the weird kind of oh my god moment of the night, Shaquille O'Neal comes out.
Right.
Now they bill the Big Show and Kane as being 7-foot tall monsters. Not quite.
No.
Shaq fucking towered over the two of them.
Right. And Shaquille O'Neal, according to
I mean,
his...
he didn't really tower over it. He was
Tower,
about
but
the
I mean,
same
it was
height as a Big
enough
Show.
that it was noticeable.
Well, let's just say that they bill Shaquille O'Neal at 7'1", and I would believe that because they probably actually measure them for basketball. So
they bullshit with those heights too.
Do
That's
they?
always been one of those
Okay.
things. Yeah, it was.
but
It goes back to remember the Magic Johnson TV show, the Magic Johnson talk
Yeah.
show.
Yes. Trying to
Yes.
forget it, but yes.
He had Howard Stern on, and they're standing next to each other and talking, and they're taking questions from the audience. And Drew Carey, we're mentioning Drew Carey for the second time in a night, he's in the audience. He goes, Magic, if you're 6'9" and Howard's 6'5", how come you're the same height? Because they used to always bill Magic as being 6'9", and he wasn't. He was 6'5".
right.
But it was one of those things. Like we know they exaggerate the heights of Kane and the Big Show a little, but it was surprising to see a guy come in that was, you know.
Well,
Especially that much bigger than Kane. The
Well,
Big Show, he was, you know, a lot more comparable to.
Well, the other thing is they put elevators on Kane's soles. You can see that on his boots he has like 2 or 3 inch soles on the heels, and he said that he was 6'9" in college. So that was 30 years ago when he was in his prime. Everybody starts to shrink a little once they hit 35 or 40. So he's already starting that descent where like your spinal column contracts and your joints contract in your knees and stuff like that. So even with that, I mean, I think for me, it was just the idea that Shaq ran down in freaking sneakers, and when he stepped over the top rope, he didn't have to push down on it.
Yeah.
Right.
You always see Big Show push down. You always see Kane push down so they don't have to, like, slap their junk in there. And Shaq just fucking stepped over it. And, like, he stood face to face with Big Show, and they were looking eye to eye. And I went, look at the size of Shaq's shoes versus the size of the Big Show's size 22 boot.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I don't even know. I got nothing. And immediately I start to think, where are they going with this battle royal? I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, maybe they're going to actually put Damian. Never mind. I was like, oh well. And then as it started to clear out, we're like, are they gonna
match actually?
Right. Well, and then we're like, well, are they going to give the Big Show a second win because he's going to do his retirement party where they give this to him and then he could solidify that he won it twice and that he's the best big man in the history? And then I was like, are they going to give it to Kane and let him ride out in the sunset? And then all of a sudden I'm going, well, wait, Mark Henry he's out of the ring, but he went under the ropes. And I went, he's from Texas. Maybe they give him the win and let him, do his last ride into the sunset. And out of nowhere, Baron Corbin comes out, and I went, okay, I'm not angry at this. I said, they're taking an NXT guy for once. Now, granted, he is a big guy, so Vince was probably all over him, but they put him over, and I went, okay, all right, I like it.
Baron Corbin has one of the best heel looks.
Yes.
Natural look of, to come in and be a villain in wrestling. He is fantastic. He has just the face, the build, that stringy hair, everything about him just kind of says, I'm a dirtbag, boomy type of stuff. And it just works. And it was funny. I had the same exact thoughts you did. I'm like, let Big Show win it twice in a row for his legacy. Give it to Kane for the end of his career. Let Mark Henry get it for the end of his career. Some of those big men, let them wrap it up.
Right.
That way. But then, when he's in, I'm like, all right, he's either going to eliminate a bunch of people or he might win this thing because it's a good way to get him over. And again, he's a big guy who can move well.
Right.
Football background, boxing background, a good character. He's got the tools to be
right.
To be there and to be at that level.
His promo skills have gotten much better since he first started.
And so there, that's another cool kind of moment. Like we figured, all right, this battle royal is going to be a little, it's going to kind of bring the crowd down a little bit, and it does because it has to. And then we wasted half hour of our lives after that, and the crowd got completely sucked out of the event.
I was like, I just want to go to bed.
Yes,
that's what when
they're like, ladies and gentlemen, I'm like, all right, here we go. The world famous Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
I was just thankful that there was no. Well, I don't want to say there was no rap act because Snoop Dogg did sing rap Slasher Banks to the ring.
They were supposed to have one of these guys.
I thought Flo Rida was
there. Yeah.
Right. And I was glad that they didn't and that they played AC/DC. And I'm like, oh my gosh, a rock song at WrestleMania. Holy shit. Who would have thought that?
And then the Rock comes out. And all right, Rock comes out. Greatest WrestleMania, Rock comes out. And then the Rock goes and gets a fucking flamethrower
Well, first things first, before he grabbed that flamethrower, he came out, and the first thing I looked at was, I said, he doesn't have sneakers on. He has his wrestling boots on.
You did. You said he's got
it was one of those, unless they're dress shoes, but who the fuck wears dress shoes with athletic pants? I was like, any other time he's on TV, he wears his Jordans. And I was like,
Dems weren't
shiny blacks on.
Dems weren't his wrestling boots. Those were his burying people boots.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
So the Rock comes out and Rock goes back. Flamethrower. Why Rock had flamethrower? I don't fucking know.
It was one of the dumbest. I'm like, why am I watching?
That's really getting to this point
to work in the morning. I'm like, And I'm watching The Rock walk down the aisle with a flamethrower.
And that was the thing. Like as I said earlier in the show, Tom and I were like 45 minutes behind.
Right.
So
It made me think of Running Man. Jim Brown, the guy with the flamethrower.
Pyro!
Here is Sub-Zero. Now, just plain Zero.
and then he lights the big rock thing on the fire, and then he
Yeah,
goes to the ring, and he makes the announcement that they broke the record, whatever, for attendance record or whatever. And then out come the Wyatts. Cool, Wyatts.
Right.
And then the Wyatts didn't just get buried by The Rock. The Wyatts got buried by John Cena, too. Why?
Because John Cena.
I
John Cena!
And then John went in the back after that and stuck his dick in Vince's mouth and all,
Well, if it's any week to bury a Wyndham, this is the week.
Oh, come on. Really?
You went there?
Oh, you went with draws now.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I did, but that was clever. That was a clever joke. I liked it. Damn. I'm just angry because I didn't think of that one first. That's what it is.
And I don't think I've ever really seen The Rock suck the energy out of a crowd.
I was in Philadelphia when he did it.
Yeah, but he did it.
They didn't suck the energy. It just didn't help the situation.
It didn't help the situation.
Right.
This sapped the crowd. It was just, it was pointless. It went on 30 minutes too long.
Right.
So by the time the main event rolled around, none of us had any energy.
Well, we weren't the only ones. That crowd was dead.
I went to bed. I watched the first couple minutes of the match, and I'm like, I don't want to fall asleep on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to bed. And I had put it on my, because I had to do some laundry too. So I was going from my TV to my iPad with it, going downstairs to the laundry. And so I'm like, do I want to put this on in the bedroom on the iPad and like fall asleep watching it? And I'm like, nah, because I don't want to wake up and I want to go to sleep. And the other thing is, I don't want to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and, an In Your House from 1992 is on. And now I'm watching,
Yeah.
Oh, it's Will and Mercy's wrestling.
Second Will and Mercy.
Duke the Youngster Josie. Kill me.
T.L. Hopper versus...
Barry Horowitz. Second of
That's
the night.
Twice.
Second
yeah.
Will and Mercy you referenced too.
Yeah.
But that's
It killed me, and and it was like this does again. It's like the Wyatts are over with the crowd, but they're just jobbing to like everybody.
that's because Vince didn't make them.
They did kind of get a little bit of a redemption Monday night, although I don't remember what it was now.
Yeah, they the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I think they went after.
Oh, that's
The League
right.
of Nations.
Yeah, they took out League
I
of
think.
Nations.
And they will get, at some point he's gonna give them, they'll get some kind of a rub for everything that they're doing. Kind of what I hope is gonna happen with especially now with Blackjack Mulligan dying, is give me a Wyatt's social outcasts feud, and let Bray and Bo in the ring together and kind of let them go pull the stops out and have a good match against each other, kind of as a tribute to their grandfather.
I would love that. And then...
Yeah, you might do it, you might not. It all depends. because Blackjack's a Hall of Famer. Blackjack's well respected. He's got the family in the thing. His son-in-laws were both agents, but he also went to jail for tax evasion. And then Vince gave his son-in-law the gimmick of IRS.
Yes.
It's true. I forgot about that.
Which I think is like it's the meanest thing.
It's like polka dots.
Yeah. It's worse than polka dots. I mean, polka dots. It's
You're
just
right.
like
It's worse than polka dots. It's like I don't know. I don't even know. I don't think you can get much worse than that.
I don't know. You put your son. You could put your son in like a blonde wig. Paint him gold.
But
that got ridiculously over.
I was gonna say that was the best gimmick he ever had in his whole career.
It was, but at the time it wasn't supposed to be.
No, it was supposed to be a joke. We get it, right? But it worked.
It's always amazing with gimmicks when you look at something and you can kind of almost smell a bad gimmick or like this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work.
Right.
And sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes it's like if you look at all those things, like what we were talking about, all those '90s gimmicks, and when a guy was something like a name, like Tatanka as an example. I always liked Tatanka. Here was an athletic guy. He was he had a decent football career. He moved well. Remember, he was undefeated for a long time.
Yeah, I think the first year he was there.
And I was like, this guy, I like felt like I needed to put my chips behind Tatanka. But I think one of the things that hurt him was just that he was Tatanka.
Yeah.
There's very few guys that get too far. I feel there's very few guys that get too far with something like that. With a name saddled on them. Like, The Undertaker got to the top. The Rock got to the top.
Right.
Yokozuna.
Right.
But, or Kane.
Right.
But the rest of the guys at least had some kind of like even Razor Ramon. I just felt there's so many of those guys that had that like one name weird character gimmick.
Diesel,
yeah.
That worked.
Yeah, I think Diesel, but Diesel was also like Diesel, Big Daddy Cool Diesel.
That's true. Right.
There's more personality to it. Right. I think Tatanka just missed having that like that next piece. Like he should have. To me. Oh, sorry. To me, he's a guy that should have been like an Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when he first debuted, and I even remarked about this during the Battle Royal. I was like, dude, he's still rocking that sweet mullet that he has. Like that he had 25 years ago, which was fantastic.
Well, it was one of those things. I didn't, there was no introduction. It was the match kind of started, and I'm looking, and I'm like, who the hell is that looks just like Tatanka?
And I was like, wait a minute, is that Tatanka? I think that was kind of one of those, like, because he had a little bit of face paint on, and I'm like, it is Tatanka. And I'm like, and Tatanka's kind of hefty now.
He's a little rounder, but it's been 20 years, 25 years.
I know. But also, I think when you said that he got saddled with that Tatanka gimmick, but he is truly a Native American. And so it was like Strongbow, except for it went a little too cartoony.
I think that's it, yeah.
It was because I still think like his theme song when he was a face comes on my iPod and I go, this is the most racist, like stereotypical, like dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah. Well, even I imagined the booking of Tatanka in this battle royal. I was thinking about that like the next day at work, and I'm like, the Vince McMahon goes, all right, we're gonna be at Cowboys Stadium.
No,
give me an Indian.
We'll
Get Tatanka on a plane.
No, not that kind of Indian.
Yeah.
I want Tatanka.
Where's Tatanka?
Where's Tatanka? Wherever the hell you think he'll be. He was probably at like WrestleCon or something down there.
I was.
Where's Wahoo McDaniel?
Well, he's dead, but
Yes.
what do you mean he's dead? He's been dead for like 15 years, Vince. You shut up.
Get me Chief J. Strong.
Also dead, boss.
Also dead, Vince.
All right, give me Pat Tanaka. But he's Japanese. It sounds like Tatanka.
Actually, he's Hawaiian, and we just made him
Right,
Japanese.
He was part of that like whitewashing that we did.
He was from
Tonga.
San Diego.
All right.
So-
On that note, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, I think you're gonna end up turning this into 2 episodes. One
Yeah,
about
'cause we've been going on for like 2 hours now.
Oh, are you?
I know my voice is gone. I'm hacking into the microphone.
And if you didn't catch what we said earlier, Roman Reigns won the fucking title.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, we all knew that was gonna happen.
we
It
all
was
knew it was
just
gonna
such a. It was like,
And I guess that's
you know,
what,
it was like I was waiting. You know, I'm like, oh, Seth Rollins. I'm like, Seth Rollins doesn't have money in the bank to cash in again. But,
yeah,
like,
that was the thing. It's like
interfere.
there's no money in the bank to cash in. Shit.
I wanted. Well, I would have been happier if Seth Rollins came in and cost Triple H the title.
Right. But they
That's
wanted.
what I wanted to see happen. And then that sets up Seth Rollins, Triple H. You put the title on Roman Reigns, but then it also puts the auspice on Roman Reigns of you didn't win it clean.
Yeah.
Right. And I
You
think
needed.
the problem-
You can't accomplish anything without your Shield buddies helping you.
Right.
You know, is it?
And that's where you get the turn. And
Yeah.
I think we're headed for part way of that, but because I kind of liked his promo on Monday.
Yeah.
That arrogant, like sarcastic, when everyone was booing him, he's like,
Yeah.
okay, get it out of your system. And I was like, I don't hate this, but
And he did the. I'm not a good guy.
Not
I'm not a bad guy.
I'm the guy.
I'm the guy.
okay.
Yeah.
And I was
And I
like,
was like, all right, let him be the arrogant prick that kind of, if people want to cheer him, they can cheer him. If people want to boo him, they can boo him. You know, they're kind of getting into more gray characterizations.
Which is what we need, I think.
Yeah, where if you keep Roman Reigns gray, if you keep the Wyatts gray, if you keep, you know, and it kind of works that guys can feud with.
Whoever.
You know, and even the New Day are a sparkly, glittery type of gray, where they're, but they could almost feud with anybody.
Evolve.
They're so obnoxious, but they're so over that they could feud with anybody.
Yeah. All right.
Right.
All right. Let's wrap this shit up, man. We can go on for another 45 minutes about the New Day.
Let's
Yeah.
not talk.
Bring it home.
Let's not. So that's where we'll wrap up. You know where to find us. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. Check us out at the channelzpodcasts.wordpress.com, facebook.com/channelzpodcasts, channelzpodcasts@gmail.com if you want to shoot us an email and tell us to shut the fuck up, not talk for 2 hours. So anyway, I'm Chris.
Mike,
And I'm Tom.
Fucking Tatanka.
I'm tired of screaming at the top of my lungs about Tatanka.
I